What's going on, guys? Come on in. Welcome to Jimmy Rants. Thank you for being here today on Jimmy Rants. And for some reason, it didn't. All right, there we are. Some days this show can frustrate me because of technology, and I'm actually pretty good at technology. That's the funny part. But some days it just gets on my nerves. So we're gonna do Jimmy Rants here today. A little bit different kind of Jimmy Rants today. So if you're used to coming on and I'm doing headlines or talking about some topic in keto or something like that, we're not going to do anything like that today. Today I wanted to come on here because one thing that I always try to do in my work is to bring clarity and calm and conversation to the table, because we can have things happen, and I'm just talking about what we're talking about here today. I'm just talking in general. People get upset about keto. I'm not doing keto right. Oh, to show me how to do it. And so I always try to bring those elements to the conversation. So unless you've been living like a hermit and under a rock lately, we have a pretty big, at least public perception of a health crisis happening right now. This coronavirus, the COVID-19, has now been declared by the World Health Organization as a pandemic. And you're having sports events being canceled. I know the NBA just delayed the rest of their season, postponed it till further notice. The NCAA tournament aren't going to allow any fans to come in to the games, which will be weird to watch on television at March Madness without fans going crazy, because literally the madness is the fans. So many things are happening with this coronavirus. And I have this sense, because I'm a people watcher and I'm someone who senses things going on, having been in this space about 15 years now, that people want to talk about it, that people have thoughts about it that they want to share, that they don't feel like they can openly share lest they get ridiculed. So what I don't want this to become is a flame war. Well, this is very real and we should all be worried, da, 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 da. Or, nah, this is nothing. It's just stupid. Why are we doing it? So I don't want the extremes of this conversation. What I would like to see as a civilized conversation is, how do we respond? Okay, great. We have this notion out there that we should all be in a hysterical state, that we should believe everything that's being said, and that we should constantly be in this stressful state. Can I tell you, this is my biggest concern, not the coronavirus itself. We're going to put that subject to the side. The reporting of the coronavirus and the way people are reacting to it, and the daily barrage now that we've gotten to this point, the moment by moment barrage of all the news coverage is putting people in a sympathetic state. So maybe you know that about yourself. Maybe you know that you're stressing yourself. You know that you've got these worries in your body. And guys, I was thinking of an analogy earlier. This worry over the coronavirus fears and the stress that comes from that is exactly the same thing that when you think you're eating fruit, well, it's okay to have the fruit because it's natural sugars in the fruit. Well, this might be a natural sugar, so to speak, in stressing, because it is an event that's being reported on that you need to be worrying about. But even natural sugars impact your blood sugar and insulin levels when we're referring to the fruit. And even the natural fears and stress that you're having in your body from this event here with the coronavirus, COVID-19 concerns, your body doesn't care why you're stressed. All your body knows is, oh my God, there's a saber-toothed tiger chasing me, because you feel the adrenaline. You're probably not sleeping well. You might even be seeing a spike in your hunger, even if you're eating keto. I want you to pay attention to your physiological response to this. And again, if you're just joining us, we are talking about the coronavirus. We're going to have a very open forum to talking about it and what your thoughts are about it, and how you're reacting to it. But I feel like the groundwork has to be, we're going to get past this. Like this, in the here and now, which is where everybody likes to live, Everybody likes to live right now. You hear the Dow Jones close because the markets fell right at the opening bell, so they closed it down until further notice. And all these restrictions. California shuts down all big events until April 1st, so forth and so on. You're going to have all of this kind of news coming at you. But at the end of the day, this is all going to pass, and we're going to be left with bodies who went through a stressful state constantly. And that's the last thing we need to do, especially if you have a compromised immune system, especially if you have weight on the body, especially if you are diseased in some way. I think you don't need to be worrying so much. Now, be diligent, wash your hands, do all the things that you're hearing. And if you listen, by the way, to today's podcast that I do with Dr. Will Cole, it's called Real Talk with Jimmy Moore and Dr. Will Cole, llvlc.com. We did a whole episode where we outlined what this coronavirus, COVID-19 is, what you need to know about it. A really fascinating story Will brought to the table is how we got this disease. It's going to blow your mind when you hear this story. What you can do to be due diligent about protecting yourself from this thing, and then what it's going to mean moving forward. I know Dr. Ken Berry did a video during a live Q&A last night where he was asked about the coronavirus, and he's predicting within the next 12 to 18 months that all of us are going to get the coronavirus. And that should not make you fearful, because most of us are able to handle it. It's the susceptible that this is a concern for. So his idea was, eat low carb right away, eat more meat right away, try to do all your due diligence things of washing your hands and so forth and so on. So the point of all of this is I'm more concerned about the negative stress impact on your health than I am about the actual coronavirus itself. Very, very, very few of us will get the coronavirus. Very few of us a lot less few of us will die of this thing. And I'm not trying to minimize people and the families that died. Sorry that that's happened. But we need to be mindful of how that stress is impacting the rest of us who will be around long after this COVID-19 has come and gone. So what I do want to do, because I did build this as an open forum, I want to see what you guys have to say. So I'm going to go to Instagram Live first, and then we'll come over to Facebook Live. Reminder, Living La Vida Low Carb Facebook page. I can't see your comments. So if you're leaving comments, I'll look at them when we're done. But for now, we're going to stick with these two formats. So thank you guys for being here. Welcome in, welcome in. As always, go to jimmyrants.com, by the way, if you want to see past episodes. And then you can also see them on YouTube if you type in a keyword, Jimmy Rants. Okay. So again, I'm going to read comments. There's no need to flame people if they have an opinion that's different than yours. I just want to see where you are in your head about this coronavirus. Ketosaurus Jack says, I think the hysteria has gotten out of hand. That is a concern that a lot of people have, that it seems like people have been whipped up into a frenzy. And so what do you do about it? And again, when people are whipped up into a frenzy, their bodies are responding as if they're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. And so is that benefiting them? Like if you already have a compromised health issue as it is, then you add this huge layer of stress from being whipped up into a frenzy. I think at the end of the day, some people would argue that's doing more harm than good. Kitty Caddick said, it is here. There's no denying that, but being hysterical is not going to help. Thank you, Kat, for that, because this is the thing. It's the reality, guys. It's just like anything that would happen in your life. The reality is stuff's going to happen, and it's always going to be out of your control for the most part. So then once something that's out of your control happens, like this coronavirus becoming a threat to you, what do you do with that? You can go hysterical, and you can put your body in that stress state, and you can allow all of this to overwhelm you and consume you. And there's a lot of people, their personality lends themselves to that. Or you can say, you know what, it's here, but I'm going to make sure I wash my hands often. I'm going to do all the things to avoid those situations where I might be exposed to this. I just think we need to be putting this into context. Yes, this is bad. This is something bad that's happening in the world. No, it's not something that's going to inevitably kill everybody. It's not the bubonic plague. So let's not conflate what it is. What it is a version of the flu virus, and it's harming some people and killing some people. Okay? So let's keep that perspective as we have this discussion, as you think about how you should react to this. And Kat, you're exactly right. Being hysterical doesn't help anything with this. Being calm and rational and having these open discussions like we're doing here today, I think is more of the solution than not. Mike says, I told my boss I'm going to self-quarantine myself on a beach somewhere for the next 3 weeks. Oh, dude. Yeah, I know you're joking, but there are people who are staying home from work out of fear. They don't want to be exposed. Like if you're in a big corporate office, like the New York Stock Exchange just shut down because all those people shoved together all in one place and moving around and touching and breathing. And yeah, I think they would be concerned. So, but I know you're joking, Mike. So Cariana says, I'm more concerned today than I was yesterday, afraid for my loved ones that are vulnerable, afraid of this bringing out the worst in people. Yeah, that is the concern. So if you know someone in your family or friends, your circle of friends, who is very sick or susceptible or has a low immune system, older people, especially our grandparents and people of that age, there is concern. But I don't think it's concern to the point that you need to get like really incredibly worried. Just make sure they don't get out. Make sure they're washing their hands. Make sure that they're doing all the things they can do to keep their bodies healthy. I think this is the mistake people make, is they just assume, well, if you're old and sick, you're just automatically going to get this. It's not an inevitability. If you're doing all the things that'll put you in a good position in your health, then you should be able to be safe from this. But people do live their lives and have to live their lives. And let's not forget, you don't want to talk about this stuff, but I'm the man of real. I always talk about things that are real. Don't put it past some people using this to promote an agenda. I don't know what that agenda would be, but just keep in mind, people will use this crisis to make hay of something, okay? I'm going to leave that to your own imagination of what you think that might be or what that could lead to, but just don't put it past that this could be happening, at least by some people. It could be being promoted for other purposes besides trying to inform the public. Lou says, people wash your hands. Your own family walks out the door without washing, and then they touch everything in your path. Yes, so wash hands, wash hands, wash hands. I've done that, and I regularly do that anyway. That was the conclusion that Dr. Cole and I had on our podcast today. Again, real talk. We talk all about the coronavirus today. Go listen, llvlc.com, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts. It's a really good episode. In fact, we might even try to put it on YouTube because there was just so much good information in there. We want to make sure it gets out there far and wide. But real talk, go listen today. But you're right. It's one of those things that if you just take care of your own family and make sure you're washing your hands and doing your due diligence on your end of things, if everybody just did that, this would not be spreading. The reason it's spreading is people are being careless. And wash your hands. What's the big deal? Why is this such a revelation? Oh my gosh, we had no idea if we didn't wash our hands, we could spread disease. And whether it's the coronavirus or just the common cold or the flu or whatever, you should always wash your hands anyway. So it's like, this is not new. If it's a nice reminder because we're in this crisis mode, then great. But people are going to soon forget. When this coronavirus thing passes, people will go back to doing exactly what they did before. So let's not pretend like this is going to make a major change. But hopefully it does impact people and gets them to stop and think. Kat says, I was doing some grocery shopping. Everybody tried to clean my cart with some wipes, not regular alcohol ones. They insisted strongly. No, thank you. I'm good. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a choice you make. I realize the hysteria has gotten to the point where they're cleaning everything. And I know on the cruise ships are having a huge issue with this because people are just canceling left and right, going on cruises. And on a cruise ship, if you know anything about cruise ships, people are touching everything everywhere. And when you see somebody get sick, usually by the time you get home, you get sick too, because people have touched all these little surfaces. And so what Royal Caribbean at least has done, which they're the ones we do our low carb cruise through, the low carb cruise isn't until May, so this should be all passed by then. But what they're doing is they have a whole team that their sole reason for being on the ship is to clean, and clean some more. And I heard the protocol. Somebody just got off a cruise ship and they were like, oh yeah, they were like more prevalent than the service staff. They were spraying everything, wiping down everything, like literally in real time. Like as you got up, they were wiping. As you moved over here, they were coming over here. And it was just like this constant cleaning. And you couldn't go into the dining area till you put the goop in your hands, the hand sanitizer. So many kind of protocols to keep people safe. Of course, a lot of those cruise ships, they're seeing huge outbreaks of this. Again, not unusual because people are touching and they're touching everything. And so that's not surprising. But it's getting out there where people just are becoming obsessed with this. And again, if you choose to be obsessed with it, if you choose to be in a stressful state because of this, by all means, please do that if you feel like that's the right reaction. I think a more prudent reaction is, okay, it's here, now what do we do? And then do the best practices that you can to protect yourself. Nancy, Virginia Beach says, my husband is in the high-risk group, so we're being very cautious and careful, but not going crazy about it. My focus is keeping as healthy as possible so our bodies can deal with it if and when we get it. That's prudent. See, Nancy, you've got the right attitude because you already know your husband's in a susceptible position. You're not going to let him out of the house and really do things to be crazy. I was supposed to be speaking this weekend in Winchester, Virginia, and they just canceled it last night. And so there is concern. And so I think if you're in that category where you're concerned, please be concerned and do all the things. But the last thing you want to do is just obsess about it and just live your life in fear. The fear is going to do more harm in your body biochemically, messing with your hormones, than this coronavirus will probably ever do. So just keep that in mind. Lou says more die from the flu every year. I feel media is naming a bone and creating a fear frenzy. Sorry, that's my opinion. No, I'm asking for opinions. Don't feel sorry for your opinion. We're not judging anybody's opinion. I'm just trying to get a gauge for where people's minds are about this because I had a sense that there was a group of people who felt like they couldn't say anything. So I'm trying to give this open forum for everybody to say what's on your mind. So thank you for sharing. And you're right. More people are dying from the flu every year than they are from this coronavirus COVID-19. The rate of COVID-19 of death is a little bit higher. It's about 3% of the people who've reported and gotten tested for COVID-19, 3% of them have died, whereas the common cold typically is around 1% to 2% per year die from it. So, but as a statistical number, that's a percentage number, 1% to 2% versus 3%. As a whole totality of number, far more people get the flu than they do this coronavirus. And so from a whole number, it's a lot bigger number, the people that are actually dying from COVID-19. Hafersi says, any example of what kind of low-carb food will last for weeks? Beef jerky, nuts. If you have fresh eggs from chickens, I get backyard chicken eggs, and you can leave those out on the counter for a month. Don't do those with the ones from the store, by the way. Really anything that's freeze-dried would also be appropriate. There's a lot of things that you can have that would last for weeks. Are you worried about losing the food supply because people are wiping out? You know, the funny part is with the frenzy about this is the number of people buying toilet paper. COVID-19 doesn't affect the keister. I'm sorry, it doesn't. It's a lung issue. So I guess maybe to blow your nose and cough, but you don't need to wipe because, anyway, it just cracked me up that toilet paper was like in short supply. Croatian Keto says, I'm from Germany 2 days ago, didn't find toilet paper. See, there it is. Pasta shelves was empty too. Luckily, we don't need pasta and we're not pooping so much. Exactly. Cindy says, I'm not concerned, but I'm going to be careful to wash my hands and watch what I touch when I'm out. That's something we should all be doing anyway. Thank you for that, Cindy. But that is a practice that in general should be common sense to anybody. You know, we don't put enough emphasis on hygiene. We don't really take stock in it until something like this happens where it brings it to our attention. So if for no other reason, COVID-19 being out there and being this mass hysteria that people are getting upset about and worried about, if it makes you wash your hands more, I see that as nothing but a good thing. Keto Purple Owl, we need to stay calm and informed. Hysteria is counterproductive. Yeah, I think that is so spot on. And somebody, when I posted the snippet from Real Talk today, where Dr. Cole was talking about this is just another form of the virus that leads to SARS and the common cold, somebody got upset in the comments, and it was fascinating to me. And they were very profanity laden here on Instagram, so thank you for that. But I was like, tell me why you feel, because he called Will a fake doctor, and he said something about some statistic, 20 times more likely to die if you have anyway. So it's amazing to me that somebody wants to just poo-poo on anybody that just says chill and be informed. And I think that's a good idea with anything. Like, I can't imagine any scenario where it provides a positive benefit to your health by getting upset and in a frenzy. Can you guys think of anything? Like, there's literally no situation where being upset and in a frenzy about something in a chronic way, not acute way. Like if a train is coming and you're on the middle of the tracks, that's going to be a chronic stress or acute stress that you want to deal with right away. But I'm talking about a chronic stress. Like, how many days have we seen this back to back to back to back to back, all coronavirus all the time? And I think it's starting to wear on people. It has to have messed with people's sleep. It has to have raised their blood sugar and insulin. If you're a type 1 diabetic, that's really hard because you're trying to control your insulin to control, but it's all being mitigated because of the stress you're allowing in your life. So Purple Owl, you're exactly right. Stay calm, stay informed, and don't get hysterical about this. Jax says, quoting from FDR, nothing to fear but fear itself. Well, yeah, when you stop and think about it, people fear more than they fear everything else more than they fear fear. It's amazing. Peacock Tanya says, I'm not worried at all, no stress here, and that's great. And I think when you start saying, well, I don't think this is a big deal at all, I think that's not the right approach. When you say this is the biggest deal we've ever dealt with in our entire lives, that's not the right approach. I think you say, okay, this issue is out there. It is causing harm to some people. I'm going to remain calm and do all the things that I know I can do to protect myself, and then I'm going to live my life as I have. The problem is all around you got these things happening where this is shutting down, this event is shutting down, this thing. Low Carb Denver, by the way, is still going on this weekend. So that's in Denver, Colorado. They're still going on. Like I said, the Adapt Winchester event that I was going to be speaking at has been canceled. And so, yeah, events are happening, events are not happening. And so when you see all this news just constantly all around you, you've got to remain calm in the midst of all that. And that's incredibly difficult for our human brains to do. My cousin Robbie says, I think the media is keeping people upset and scaring everybody. I pick up on the ambulance. Yeah, he's an ambulance guy, paramedic. So scared they have it. The older people with COPD and breathing problems are the most at risk. Exactly. And thank you, Robbie, for your experience and expertise in this. Those are the people that I guess we should be concerned about, is these elderly who already have lung conditions. Just watch out for the elderly that are in your life. So if it's your grandpa, your grandma, somebody that's dear to you and your family, or at your church, or whoever you know, if someone's over the age of 70 and they're already dealing with health issues, just make sure they're okay. Make sure they're staying at home. Make sure they're just getting what they need and staying away from this, because that's going to be the best way you protect them at this time. On KOE says, if we didn't have social media, would we even know there was a problem? This is another thing. And thank you for that, because I think the widespread, constant 24-hour cycle of news is just constantly dripping it and dripping it and dripping it and dripping it and dripping it. And people are becoming overwhelmed. And I know a lot of people in my life who little things just overwhelm them. So I can't imagine if you just constantly get exposed to this, how it couldn't overwhelm you. For me, I'm not that personality type that gets overwhelmed very easily. And so I have not been overwhelmed by this. But you're right. The social media, the constant 24-hour news cycle on cable television, online, if you just Google coronavirus or Google anything, it ended up, where it came on my attention, where it really became a big issue. I'm into sports talk. And so I'm sitting there looking at ESPN app, and it's like coronavirus. And I'm like, what in the world? And then they shut down the NBA season, and they talk about the NCAA tournament being played, but without any fans in the stands. And I'm going, okay, a story has crossed over from just being a health story, just being a news story, when it ends up in the sports media. So, yeah, if we didn't have social media, would we know about this? Would it be this franticness? I don't think so. But we can't discount some of the people reporting on this want the eyeballs. Because if you have something that people are worried about and then you talk about said thing, then that creates more people to come watch and come listen and be exposed to what you're doing. So I get there are some people being motivated by that, while I don't think that's most of them, though. The best thing that people can do is ignore Facebook and get educated. Yeah, Jax, I went on Facebook just for funsies. So that's over here, you guys. I just would scroll through the news feed, and it was like coronavirus. And it's just, yeah, I think it can be too much. Maybe this is the time we all do a social media detox. Wouldn't this be the perfect time to just get the heck off of social media? Sorry, Jimmy Rants fans, I don't want to lose you, but I would rather you be off of social media for a period of time to detox from the constant barrage of the news about this coronavirus than I would for you to be exposed to it and it have a harmful impact on your health. Over 60 colleges so far have sent their kids home to do their studying online, says Lou. Probably not a bad idea, although I think college students are probably more at ease of being exposed to this thing than anybody. But it's not just the one that's hosting it. It's who does that host then touch. So they're talking about shutting down public schools because all these kids go to school, and what if it's an outbreak at a public school? Then they come home and they touch and hug all over and kiss grandpa, and then grandpa gets it and grandpa has COPD. So I guess that's the concern here. I don't remember people going this crazy in 2009 with H1N1. Yeah, it's really interesting to me because we've had SARS and swine flu and bird flu. And I saw a meme the other day where somebody looked at all these years where we had all these crises in health, like H1N1, and they looked up the years. Every single one of them was a political election year. So the Congress is up every 2 years, Senate is every 6 years, and the president every 4 years. So some have surmised that there are people that try to use things like this to take political advantage. Now, I'm not going to make an opinion about that. I don't really care. It was just an interesting observation that somebody put up, that it only seems to happen in political election years. Like, are these viruses, do they, are they Democrats and Republicans? Like, do they determine when they want to just pop up and form? I mean, it's ridiculous, people's kind of conspiracy theories about it. But at the end of the day, it is an interesting statistic. Why doesn't it happen in an odd year? It doesn't seem to. Steph says, well, I didn't die of dengue fever, parasite, salmonella, and hepatitis A when I lived abroad from 2000 to 2003. So, ... Yeah, again, if you're relatively healthy, you're going to survive this coronavirus. But if you're exposed to this, oh, it's the worst thing ever. Oh, we need to be careful. Oh, you got to be having your due diligence. It's possible people are, oh, another person died. And, oh, no, it's coming to my town. And that's the thing that's frustrating me about this whole conversation is, why do we have to be so revved up about it? Lathered up, revved up, freaked out, scared. We don't want to say fear sells, but fear sells. When you get people so fearful of something, it puts them in a state of panic. And it's hard to come out of a state of panic. Like, if you're really engaged in a topic and really kind of worried sincerely about it, it hits you down deep at an emotional level, which then manifests in a physiological level. And so I'm not discounting how people feel, but I also feel like we need to be very mindful of what this stress over this is doing versus the potential risk of what this will actually do. Kat says, this is not a new virus, new mutation. That's what happens to all viruses. Death rates are real, but they are inflated. You're talking about the percentages. Yes, the percentages are inflated. Still hard to believe that it's all about that and not something else. Yeah, that's what I threw out there earlier, merely because I don't want people to think that there's no other motivation other than informing the public of a health problem. There will be people, and they already have, that will use this for their own agenda, be it politically, be it business, be it this, be it that. Now, there are a lot of businesses losing a lot of money, like the NBA shutting down the season. The National Basketball Association is going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars because of that. The stock market is closed, and it's been going up and down, up and down. It will correct, by the way. When all this is over, the markets will come back. So if you have a 401k that's tied to the stock market, don't worry. You haven't lost all your money. It will come back. It's just going to take time for that to build back up. So be patient. But that's the thing. It's like all of these unintended consequences of making this into a big media story is it's having ripple effects all throughout our culture. Lady Isley says, always wash your hands and try your best to keep your hands away from your face when you're out and about. Yeah, don't do and then touch everything. Janet says the money means agenda. Yeah, I'm trying to think, what money are people getting out of this other than they're wiping out all the masks and the gloves and the toilet paper? That one still cracks me up. I'm trying to think, what money are people making from this crisis? It is a good thought, so thank you for that. Let's see here. Oops. Sorry guys. I lost it, and it's got my whole page covered up. Hang tight. There we go. Now it's coming back. First world problems. 25 down and more says, my daughter has a rare genetic disorder and a complex medical history. She's very vulnerable, especially with the respiratory issues. 2 years ago, she was on a respirator with the flu, and I'm very worried. For your daughter, you should be worried. So thank you for articulating your concern there. But prudent practices. Just keep her away from anybody right now. Keep her in your house. Self-quarantine is what they're calling that. So keep yourself in the house. She'll go crazy. Spoil her a little bit. Maybe get her some treats that come home. You watch a Netflix movie or something that would kind of tide her over until this all passes and she's not at risk anymore. So thank you for sharing your concern there. And I share your concern. I think that is a situation where this is real. The average person that's generally healthy, it's not that big of a concern as it is for your daughter. Cariana says, listen to a podcast with an infectious disease specialist. His advice above all was to just keep your base level of inflammation low. I cringe when I think about how inflammatory the average diet is. And see, that's another thing about this. People think it's all about, we've got this flu and we need a vaccine. Why don't we think about ahead of time before these things hit? Why don't we ever bring out the fact that we should be putting our bodies in, like you said, a low inflammatory state? So minimal inflammation. And if you don't have inflammation, you can't have disease. So even if a virus like the coronavirus hits your body, you'll be able to handle that. Okay? So not letting your body get in a susceptible state is the goal, regardless of if there's a worldwide pandemic, as WHO is calling this coronavirus, or not. You should be doing that. Lou says stay out of crowded areas for a few weeks, stay home, plenty of entertainment. Yes, see, think about if this happened 30, 40 years ago, what would our options be? I remember as being a kid in the 1980s, we had a boob tube, that's what we called the television, and you had the little rabbit ears. You had a little bit of video games, like Atari just came out, like Pong and stuff, 1983, 4. Yeah, there was minimal. Today we have so much. Like I could literally stay in my house here. I could turn on the television and watch Netflix. I've got a bunch of things on DVR. I've got games. I've got the internet. I've got Jimmy Rants. I could do all kinds of things for weeks staying right here. And that's what we should probably do. That's not a bad idea. Now Janet went political, so I'm going to just read this. This is not my commentary, it's hers. They kept us on the impeachment thing for a long time, and now that it's gone, now it's the coronavirus. So there will be some people that they think this is a whole, wag the dog situation where we're trying to be distracted with these crises. So yeah, I suppose there are some people that would believe that. Caption KC, I think this will eventually spread among us like the common cold, but we all take care and put it off as long as possible. We buy enough time for medical science to do their thing, which is treatment. Thank you for that. Yeah, Dr. Barry said the same thing. He thinks within the next 12 to 18 months, we're all going to get the coronavirus. But he said the reason why it's such a crisis now is the medical care system can't handle all of us getting sick at the same time. And so he said if it's paced out, which most of us doing our due diligence now, that's all we can do is just do our due diligence now. And if at some point you happen to get it, maybe by then the medical care system will be able to handle all the new cases at that point. But yeah, the longer this goes on, the more we'll be able to get a hold of it, and there will be treatment options available. Manisha says vitamins A, C, and D on the daily, zinc and selenium. Those are always good ideas, regardless of there being a virus outbreak or not. Mike says, do you think there's any real value supplementing kids with vitamin C since most of them have sugar? At this point, I think if you feel like it's going to give you benefit to have the vitamin C, there are plenty of options that have vitamin C without sugar. Give them the vitamin C. I think it's not a bad idea. Amazon's always there, says Kitty Cat. Yeah. Although I do worry about like a delivery driver, the mailman, like how do they not get exposed and then possibly touch your package or mail, and could you get it that way? So even that way, you're still coming into contact. So wear gloves and spray everything and just see what happens. I remember I saw an image in China where this really hit big. Italy as well. The whole country is shut down right now. where they literally, they were walking around with 2 cans of Lysol, and they were just literally just spraying everything all around them while they're walking on the sidewalk. You see these people like crisscrossing cans of Lysol. I suppose that's one way to do it. Be proactive, says Patty. Up your intake of whole healthy foods, elderberry, vitamin A, C, D. Drink lots of water, wash your hands, pray, and be wise. All good advice. I'm getting off of this because I'm getting stressed, says Janet. So but I'll stay on Instagram to watch Jimmy Rants. Thank you for that. Cincy Girl said, Keto Girl says, oh my word, I did not mean to send a laughing emoji. Oh, did you laugh at me? Manisha, yep, an anti-inflammatory lifestyle is actual self-care, which is healthcare. Cariana says, thank you for this calm, rational space. You're welcome. That's one reason I wanted to come on here. I call the show Jimmy Rants, and people take offense to that word rants, but I do less ranting. I do more, let's talk about it, let's rationalize it, let's stay chill than anything. If everything shuts down, then what, says Janet. That's a concern I'm not worried about. Everything's not going to shut down. Like, think about the worst thing that ever happened in America. It was 9/11. Yes, for a few days there was a lot of things shut down. And we were like, what just happened? How do we move on with our lives? But guess what happened? Everything opened back up and we moved on with our lives. Same thing's going to happen here. We're going to have this moment and we're in the midst of it right now. It's probably the worst it's going to be of the moment of thinking about this thing. But eventually everything's going to get back to normal again and we're going to live our lives again. Just look at this as a pause on your normal life. Okay? K-Girl's mom, apparently my sister-in-law said Amazon has sold out of all toilet paper. Kitty Caddick, viruses don't last without a host, so there is hope, yes. All right, Instagram, thank you for all those great comments. I know I have a bunch over here on my Facebook page. Again, Living La Vida Low Carb Facebook page. Sorry, I can't see your comments. I know you're probably feverishly writing lots of them for me. Just know I do read them when we're done here. So keep writing your comments, and thank you for all of that. All right, I'm going to come over here to Facebook. What's up, guys? Thanks for being here. My dad is 80. My mom has health issues. They live in the containment area in New Rochelle. I'm concerned. Yeah. If you know that they're susceptible, then it's probably good to be concerned. Not overwhelmed, not panicked, but concerned and making sure they're taken care of. That's your job as their family. Missy says, I think we need to turn off the news. There is an argument to be said about turning off the news. And in general, 2020, I was going to stay away from a lot of the news in 2020 because this is a presidential election year. People just go crazy with all kind of stuff in political election years. And it seems like presidential political election years here in America, it just goes off the deep end. So probably not a bad idea, just so you're not worked up into a frenzy like constantly, because it's very easy. And trust me, when you start watching this coverage, it's very alluring to keep watching. And you just feel like you're being informed, and all you're really doing is being fired up and caused to have more fear. So that's kind of the reason why I wanted to come on here today, was to say, hey, look, that is a way to respond to this, but is it the healthiest way to respond? Are you being benefited by constantly being exposed to it? Be smart, keep up with what's happening, but I don't think you have to be in this constant fearful state. Just as Missy said, it's increasing stress, which increases cortisol, which weakens your immune system, which makes you more susceptible to the coronavirus and having it do things when it does hit you. So you're very right, Missy. Thank you for that. Stress raises cortisol, weakens your immune system, which is what puts you at more risk for getting this. Janet says, I'm stressed because this is all I see and hear about on Facebook. Schools are now closing in Tennessee. See, this is going to be a personal decision. How do you respond? And you know yourself the best. How do you respond to this? If you know you're going to be fearful and worked up into a frenzy, maybe you go cold turkey and shut it all out, at least for a period of time. Catch your breath, figure out what's going on. Don't peek in, don't look in on Facebook, don't watch the cable news, don't turn on anything that would expose you to yet another story that would get you upset and into a hysterical state. Stay away. If you're going to stay away, stay away. In the meantime, wash your hands, do all the things. Mitzi says, I'm not worried for myself, but will do what I can to protect my family, neighbors, and coworkers. Mitzi, that's the thing. We all have people in our lives that could be susceptible to this thing. That's our priority, not ourselves. We should just be calling anybody in our life that's 70 or older that we know has known health issues, especially respiratory types of issues. So if you got that, today is your wake-up call to go talk to them. Make sure they've got a plan. Make sure they stay in the house. A lot of them do anyway, but just make sure they stay in the house. Make sure people don't come visit them at this time. Make sure they've got all the supplies of food and things that they need. That's what we should be putting our efforts in, not worrying about it inflicting us in some way. Julia says, the head of infection control and administration at the hospital that I work at told us all to stay calm, be professional, and turn off the news. Infection control has daily meetings to keep us all educated. And that's the way. I love it. And thank you for sharing the hospital perspective. I assumed that's what was happening, but it's good to hear that there is kind of rationality happening at the highest levels of the hospitals, because they're the ones now having to deal with the brunt of this. People come in with a sniffle or a cold, or what they think is just the common flu. Every single one of them is having to be quarantined and tested for the coronavirus. And so it's been quite stressful on the medical health system for them to have to deal with this. And so that's the other thing. What about people who actually have, serious like medical emergencies like heart attack, stroke, other kinds of things where they would have to be going to hospital? I'm worried this might be taxing our medical healthcare system, where people who need care more urgently are having to kind of wait or have not respond as quickly because of the concerns and the extra step of having to test for this coronavirus. As a nurse that specializes in vaccines and epidemiological diseases, it's been very stressful following this from day one. My cortisol is off the charts, says Tammy. I gained unexplained weight. Well, we know why you gained weight. I have family members at high risk, and just getting prepped for possible isolation has been stressful. Please don't take this lightly. At least have food and medicine for at least a month. Meticulous hygiene. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Tammy, and I agree. Don't take it lightly if you have all those things in place where people will need to be taken care of. My cousin has advanced MS and he's in New York City, says Jeannie. He and his wife are hibernating, getting food delivery in order to stay safe. That's a good idea. I think we need to take due diligence is always a good idea. Not just social media, it's the national news every day. Yeah, Kate, all exposure to all forms of where you would get information about this. I feel like people become addicted to it. Like you watch a little bit of it and it makes you want to watch a lot of bit of it. I remember the 9/11 coverage. I sat there glued to my television for days, like watching it hour after hour and after hour. And then there'd be another new little wrinkle in it, hour after hour after hour, days and days. And at one point I kind of said, I can't emotionally keep doing this. I can't just constantly be looking at this. We were all very sad as a nation, but it was impacting people at a personal level. And the same thing with this. You can sit there and watch hours upon hours upon hours of this kind of stuff, and it's going to take its toll. So just be aware of that. Don't let it take a toll on you. Wash your hands after opening mail and packages. And I would say even before you open any mail and packages, just put on some gloves, do something. All right, let's come back to Instagram before we have to get off of here. Make sure there's any new comments that came in. Lisa says, I work in a dental office here in Canada. Our dental suppliers are running out of masks. If we can get masks, can't get masks, we simply cannot work. Yeah, that's been one of the disappointing parts of this crisis is people went out and bought up all the masks. And I'm going, all right, does one family need like 2,000 masks? 5,000 masks? You know, they've stockpiled them. And so then what happens when you've got medical professionals like yourself who actually need this to do their job and it's not available? You shut that down. People who have an emergency tooth surgery, they need a dentist and dental hygienist that can put on masks. You see how this hysteria about this does have some ripple effects, and that's one of them. I'm only concerned because I'm the only healthy person in my office. Also, I'm the oldest. Well, you're the oldest, but you're probably the healthiest, as you said. But I suppose that's prudent that you just take precautions, Keto Purple Owl. So thank you for sharing those. So guys, that's what I wanted to do here today. I just wanted to have conversations with you. I wanted to make this a friendly, open forum to discuss your thoughts about the coronavirus. This ain't going away. Like, I think we're going to probably see this in the news cycle for at least the foreseeable future within the next month and a half. And hopefully by then, things will have calmed down. Things will have gotten back to normal, some semblance of normal again. I think if you're sincerely concerned about the coronavirus, then just do the things you know to do. Wash your hands regularly, avoid exposure as much as possible, self-quarantine, do things at your house. Maybe this is the time to do a staycation and not to get out there in the open. Now, I get it. We still have to work. We still got things going on. People got to pay bills. I get all of that. But I don't think we need to get worked up into a frenzy to the point that we compromise our health because of the stress of the worrying about this rather than the this itself. That makes sense? Just a reminder, go listen to today's episode of Real Talk with Jimmy Moore and Dr. Will Cole. My co-host is a functional medicine practitioner. Will is in Pittsburgh, and he and I did a 45-minute podcast on Real Talk airing today on llvlc.com. We talk all about all the intricacies. The history of where this COVID-19 came from is going to blow your mind. Like, what? Like, you're going to find out where this came from. Where did it start? It's shocking when you find out where this thing started, and it will probably make you a little bit angry. So go listen. How's that for a tease? Go listen to Real Talk with Jimmy Moore and Dr. Will Cole, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, llvlc.com, or wherever you access podcasts. So JimmyRants.com is how you access this show. We're also over on YouTube. If you type in a keyword Jimmy Rants, you'll find the show. Go check it out, you guys. And until next time, we'll see you then.